March 9th, 1945, 11:34 p.m. A woman in Tokyo's Asakusa district looks up at the night sky and sees something strange. Tiny green and red lights drifting gently down like summer fireflies. They're beautiful, calm in the darkness. She reaches out and touches one, and her hand bursts into flames. It's gelled napalm clinging to an incendiary bomb, and over the next 6 minutes, 1,665 tons of fire will fall on the most densely populated city on Earth, turning 41 square kilometers into a literal inferno, one that will kill more people in a single night than any other air raid in human history. This is the story of Operation Meetinghouse, the deadliest night of World War II. Before we begin, tell me in the comments, did you know this attack killed more people than Hiroshima? Had you ever heard of this operation? What do you know about Japan's firebombing campaign? Act 1. The Japanese Problem. February 1945. And the United States has a massive problem called Japan. For 3 years, the U.S. Army Air Forces have been bombing Japan from bases that keep inching closer, trying to replicate what worked in Germany. High-altitude precision bombing to destroy factories, refineries, and industrial centers. The problem is, none of it is working. The B-29 Superfortress is the most advanced flying machine ever built. Each one costs $600,000, 3 times the price of a B-17, and it can fly at 33,000 feet, carrying 9 tons of bombs over 5,000 kilometers. It's a true flying fortress, armed with 12.50 caliber machine guns and revolutionary computerized bombing systems. On paper, it should be devastating. Over Japan, it's becoming an expensive failure. General Haywood Hansell Jr. commands the 21st Bomber Command from the Marianas, following the doctrine of high-altitude daylight precision bombing. Fly high, hit factories with high explosives, and cripple Japan's industrial capacity. It sounds perfect in theory, but 3 factors make it nearly impossible. First is the weather. Japan in winter is a meteorological nightmare. The jet stream runs straight over the Japanese islands at 30,000 feet, with winds of 200 to 250 miles per hour. The B-29s try to bomb while flying inside this monstrous current, which literally shoves the aircraft sideways as they struggle to hold formation. Bombardiers aim carefully, using their sophisticated Norden systems, but when they release the bombs, the winds carry them kilometers off course. Bombs meant for an engine plant land in rice fields 5 kilometers away. Precision, the entire foundation of the strategy, simply doesn't exist. Second are the persistent cloud layers that blanket Japan for months. Bombers fly 2,500 kilometers from the Marianas, burning precious fuel, only to find their target completely hidden beneath thick cloud cover. They return to base with bombs still on board, having wasted fuel and time and risked crews for nothing. This happens on roughly 70% of missions. Third are the Wright R3350 engines, brilliant on paper, mechanical disasters in reality. They're the most powerful bomber engines ever built, but they overheat constantly, especially when pushed at altitude. Engines catch fire mid-flight, and when an 18-cylinder radial engine ignites on an aircraft packed with fuel and bombs, the outcome is predictable: a fireball plunging from 30,000 feet. Crews fear their own engines more than Japanese fighters, and the Japanese aren't passively waiting to be destroyed. They still have around 375 fighters defending the home islands, a 6 M0s, Key 43 Oscars, Key 61 Tonys, and the new Key 84 Frank, which is genuinely dangerous. They may be outnumbered and short on fuel, but they can still be lethal, especially against damaged bombers that fall behind formation. The numbers tell the story of failure. In January 1945, the 21st Bomber Command flew 236 sorties against Tokyo. Only 195 actually bombed. Only 49 reported hitting the primary target. Industrial damage was minimal, and 9 B-29s were lost, about 4% of the attacking force. That loss rate is unsustainable when each aircraft costs $500,000 and carries 11 crewmen trained for years. Back in Washington, senior leaders are furious. They're pouring fortunes into the most expensive bomber ever built, the bomber that's supposed to win the war from the air, and it isn't producing measurable results. Japanese factories are still turning out aircraft, ships, and weapons. The war economy is still running. Japan shows no sign of surrender. On January 20th, 1945, a telegram arrives for Hansel. He's being replaced. His replacement is General Curtis LeMay, 38 years old, the youngest officer in U.S. Army history to reach general rank. LeMay built his reputation in Europe, developing bombing tactics that reduced losses and increased effectiveness. He's brutally pragmatic, famously tight-lipped, and utterly ruthless about winning wars. He smokes cigars constantly, rarely smiles, and has a nickname, Iron Ass, because he flies the same dangerous missions as his crews, refusing to stay safe on the ground. LeMay arrives on Guam on January 20th and spends weeks studying every mission, every damage report, every available statistic. He flies on missions himself, watching the problems firsthand, the impossible winds, the endless clouds, the engine failures. His conclusion is simple: the current strategy doesn't work. Continuing it is a waste of resources and lives. If they want to win, everything has to change. And LeMay has an idea, one so radical, so dangerous, and so morally fraught that it could end his career or make him a war criminal. He's going to burn Japan to the ground. Act 2. The decision. To understand LeMay's decision, you have to understand how Japanese cities are built, because that detail is crucial for everything that follows. Tokyo, in 1945, has about 7 million residents, making it one of the most populous cities on Earth. But unlike Western cities built from brick, concrete, and steel, Tokyo is built largely of wood, bamboo, and paper. Around 90% of residential structures are traditional homes, with shoji walls made from rice paper, tiled roofs supported by wooden frames, and tatami floors. These houses are designed for frequent earthquakes, flexible wood instead of rigid masonry, but that makes them extraordinarily vulnerable to fire. Worse, they're packed together at unimaginable density. In districts like Asakusa, Fukagawa, and Honshu, population density reaches about 135,000 people per square mile, 4 times Manhattan's. Homes are separated by meters, sometimes less. Narrow alleyways, barely 3 feet wide, snake between wooden structures pressed tight against one another. And everything is dry, because March in Japan brings very little rain. LeMay looks at this and realizes something the planners in Washington haven't fully grasped. They don't need precision, and they don't need high explosive bombs. Japan is fundamentally vulnerable to something far more primitive and far more terrifying than any conventional explosive. Fire. Fire has a long history as a weapon, and it's ancient and horrifying. Successful incendiary bombing is about creating what scientists call a firestorm, a meteorological phenomenon where a blaze becomes so intense it creates its own weather. Extreme heat makes hot air rise violently, creating storm force winds that suck fresh air in from the edges, feeding the flames with oxygen. Temperatures can exceed 1,000 degrees Celsius. The air becomes unbreathable long before the flames reach you. The fire sustains itself, consuming every available fuel source until there's literally nothing left to burn. Hamburg experienced this in July 1943 during Operation Gomorrah, when British bombers created a firestorm that killed about 42,600 people in one night. Dresden would suffer something similar in February 1945, killing somewhere between 25,000 and 35,000. The British had developed strategic incendiary bombing under Arthur Harris, Bomber Harris, who believed burning German cities would shatter civilian morale and force surrender. It was controversial then, and remains controversial now, but in terms of physical destruction, it worked. LeMay studies those attacks meticulously. He contacts chemists and engineers in the US and asks a simple question: what burns wooden Japanese structures best? The answer is newly developed napalm, gasoline gelled with special acids, turning it into a sticky substance that clings to surfaces and burns at roughly 1,000 degrees Celsius for about 15 minutes. Mixed with magnesium and white phosphorus, it becomes the most effective incendiary material ever created. The bombs are called M69s, packed into clusters of 38, known as E46 clusters. They open at around 2,500 feet, scattering the individual bomblets across a wide area. Each M69 weighs just 6 pounds, but it can ignite dozens of separate fires. A B-29 can carry 1,520 M69S 40 clusters. If LeMay sends 300 B-29s, that's 456,000 individual incendiaries falling on a concentrated area in minutes. Chemical calculations suggest this will virtually guarantee a firestorm if conditions are right. But there's another huge tactical problem. The B-29s are losing effectiveness, not just because of weather, but because flying at 30,000 feet consumes enormous fuel, especially with a full bomb load, and still leaves them exposed in ways that don't pay off. LeMay runs the numbers and realizes something. If they fly low, say 5,000 to 7,000 feet, the B-29s can carry 3 times more bombs because they burn far less fuel climbing to operating altitude. Flying low has another advantage. At that altitude, the jet stream isn't a factor, so bombers can aim with reasonable accuracy, and low clouds don't necessarily block the target the way the high-altitude layers do. But flying low also has one massive, terrifying downside. It makes them vulnerable to Japanese anti-aircraft fire, guns that can't reach effectively at 30,000 feet, but can shred aircraft at 7,000. Then LeMay makes his most radical proposal of all. Strip the B-29s of all defensive guns except the tail turret to reduce weight and allow even more bombs. His officers think he's lost his mind. He's proposing to send $600,000 bombers flying low and slow over Japan, practically defenseless, protected only by a tail gunner. It sounds like tactical insanity, but LeMay's calculations are cold. Japanese fighters struggle at night. Their night fighting training is minimal. They lack effective radar-guided interception, and their fuel is so tightly rationed they can barely afford sustained defensive patrols. If he attacks at night, at low altitude, with maximum incendiary loads, he believes the losses will be acceptable, while the damage will be catastrophic. There's also an enormous moral problem LeMay understands but doesn't publicly debate. Firebombing Tokyo will kill civilians on a massive scale because Japan's small workshops are scattered through residential neighborhoods where workers manufacture parts in their homes. There is no way to strike only military targets with a weapon that spreads uncontrollably through dense wooden housing. This will be area bombing without ambiguity, designed to destroy industrial capacity by destroying the entire urban fabric. On March 8th, LeMay calls in his commanders and announces the mission. 325 B-29s will attack Tokyo that night, flying between 5,000 and 7,000 feet, stripped of defensive armament, carrying only M69 incendiaries. The primary target is a rectangular area of 41 square kilometers in eastern Tokyo, covering Asakusa, Honjo, and Fukagawa, where roughly 750,000 people live in the highest urban density on the planet. The pilots are horrified. LeMay is essentially ordering them to fly what feels like a suicide mission. Low altitude, defenseless bombers, right where anti-aircraft fire should tear them apart. Some commanders protest, saying it's sending their men to the slaughter. LeMay is unmoving. He says that if the mission fails, he'll resign and accept full responsibility. But he believes it will work, and that in the long run, it will save American lives by shortening the war. At 5:34 p.m. on March 9th, the first B-29 takes off from Northfield on Guam, carrying General Thomas Power as an observer. Then another lifts off, and another, until 325 B-29s are in the air from Guam, Tinian, and Saipan, forming a river of bombers heading for Japan. Each plane carries between 6 and 8 tons of M69s. The plan is for them to arrive over Tokyo in staggered waves over 3 hours, starting at midnight. The first aircraft will mark the perimeter of the target area with special M47 napalm bombs, creating massive fires visible from 100 kilometers away, clearly outlining exactly where to drop the main incendiary load. In Tokyo, people are exhausted. Air raid sirens have been sounding constantly for weeks, but recent raids have been small. Japanese defenses have shot down several B-29s, and confidence is growing that the city can withstand the attacks. That confidence is about to be annihilated, along with everything else. Act 3. Fire from the Sky. March 9th, 11:56 p.m. Air raid sirens begin to wail across Tokyo, and residents step outside, looking up into the night, expecting, as always, to see tiny points of light passing high overhead. This time is different. They can hear the engines, really hear them, roaring louder than ever before. The first B-29s arrive at just 7,000 feet and open their bomb bay doors. These are the Pathfinders. They drop 180 M47s around the target perimeter, igniting a giant rectangle of fire visible from anywhere in the city. Each M47 contains 100 gallons of gelled napalm. It detonates on impact, throwing up 100-foot columns of flame that burn a brilliant orange, lighting up the sky. People on the ground watch in horror and fascination. They've never seen anything like it. The rectangle of fire precisely outlines the zone about to become hell, and inside it live 750,000 people who have about 5 minutes before the true nightmare begins. 12:15 a.m., March 10th. The main bomber stream arrives in continuous waves. Bomb bay doors open in formations that seem endless. E-46 clusters tumble downward, and at 2,500 feet, they burst open, scattering 38 M69s each. The small bomblets fall like deadly rain, and from the ground, they look like green and red fireflies drifting gently down, thanks to small stabilizing ribbons that make them spin slowly. They hit roofs, streets, courtyards with soft, almost harmless thuds. But 3 seconds later, each one erupts, flinging gelled napalm in all directions. The napalm instantly clings to wood, paper, clothing, skin, any surface, and burns, at roughly 1,000 degrees Celsius, producing bright white flames that can't be extinguished with water. The gel floats on top of water, continuing to burn as if mocking every attempt to put it out. In the first 15 minutes, about 100,000 incendiaries fall on an 11 square kilometer area, igniting tens of thousands of separate fires at once. Wooden homes catch instantly, roofs explode into flame, paper walls vanish. Within minutes, entire blocks become torches. But the real horror is only beginning. Tokyo's fire service has 8,000 men and 900 trucks, trying to fight something like 50,000 separate fires burning simultaneously. It's mathematically impossible. Each brigade races toward the nearest blaze, only to find 10 more just as large on the next block, and the next, and the next. Water hits the napalm and accomplishes nothing. Worse, the bombs keep falling. There are so many B-29s overhead that the bombing is continuous, without pause. Every 30 seconds, another wave drops, adding thousands more fires to the ones already raging. American airmen later report they could see Tokyo burning from 240 kilometers away, with smoke columns rising to 20,000 feet. And then, around 12:45 a.m., what LeMay hoped for, and what scientists predicted, begins. The firestorm forms. Tens of thousands of individual blazes merge into massive conflagrations, generating so much heat that hot air surges upward violently, creating a partial vacuum at ground level. Cooler air is sucked in from the edges at increasing speed, feeding the flames with fresh oxygen, making the fires burn hotter, creating more suction, accelerating in a runaway feedback loop. Within 20 minutes, the phenomenon is fully established. People on the perimeter feel winds building, blowing toward the center where the flames burn brightest. The wind climbs 30 kilometers per hour, then 50, then 80, ripping off roofs, flipping carts, knocking down people trying to flee. Utility poles burst into flame from radiant heat alone. Trees ignite without direct contact. Even pavement begins to blister. Temperatures at the center reach around 1,000 degrees Celsius, turning the area into a gigantic open-air furnace. And the air itself becomes lethal long before the flames reach you. Breathing air at 300 degrees Celsius sears your lungs instantly from the inside, killing by painful thermal asphyxiation. Thousands try to escape through narrow alleyways, but the alleys become chimneys, funnels that channel superheated winds that catch them from behind. Entire families collapse together as their lungs literally cook. Others suffer third-degree burns across exposed skin without ever touching a flame. Pure, radiant heat. The B-29s keep arriving for 3 hours, dropping a total of 1,665 tons of incendiaries. Pilots later report that the smell of burning flesh rose up to their cockpits at 7,000 feet. That turbulence from the rising heat battered their planes like a violent storm. And that the glow was so bright, they could read maps in the cockpit without lights. Captain James Boyle recalled, "Tokyo was a solid mass of flame. It looked like an ocean of fire stretching in every direction to the horizon. I'd never seen anything remotely like it, and I hoped never to see anything like it again." Lieutenant Richard Marshall said, "We could smell the city burning at 7,000 feet. It was the smell of burning wood mixed with something sickly sweet. Later they told me it was human flesh. Some men vomited into their masks." The bombing continues until 3 a.m., when the last B-29 releases its load and turns back toward the Marianas. But on the ground, the hell will burn for 18 more hours. The firestorm is self-sustaining, and there is nothing, absolutely nothing, that can stop it except running out of fuel. Act 4, the morning after March 10th, 7 a.m. The sun rises over Tokyo and reveals devastation beyond description. The rectangular 41 square kilometer area that last night held 750,000 people living in roughly 300,000 buildings has ceased to exist. In its place is a flat field of ash, broken only by brick or concrete, chimneys, the only structures left standing, and twisted remnants of industrial machinery. Almost everything else was consumed. 267,000 buildings completely destroyed. Every wooden house, every temple, every shop, every school, gone, reduced to ash. Wooden bridges collapsed into canals. Trees are carbonized stumps. Streets are covered in smoking debris and unrecognizable remains. But the truly horrific part is the bodies, tens of thousands of them, everywhere, in conditions almost beyond imagination. Some are burned down to blackened, statue-like forms, frozen in positions of agony. Others are partially burned, white bone exposed through charred flesh. Many are piled in clusters where families died together, trying to shield one another. The canals are filled with corpses because thousands tried to escape by throwing themselves into the water, only to discover the water was boiling or the air above it was unbreathable. They died by the thousands, drowning or being cooked alive. In places, the canals are so packed with bodies that people can reportedly cross from bank to bank by stepping on the dead. Underground air raid shelters become death traps. Some people inside suffocate as the fire consumes oxygen above ground. Others die of thermal asphyxiation when superheated air sinks into the shelters. Some shelters hold hundreds of bodies jammed together, people who clawed desperately for air that never came. Hospitals that survived on the edges are overwhelmed. Tens of thousands of wounded pour in. Severe burns, smoke inhalation, crush injuries, trauma of every kind. There aren't enough doctors, bandages, medicine, or beds. Hallways fill with people screaming in agony as doctors perform desperate triage, saving those they can, leaving others to die because they're beyond help. Recovery begins, but the scale is crushing. There are too many bodies to count individually, so teams pile the dead into heaps and burn them using wood from the destroyed buildings. For weeks, the smell of burned flesh mixed with ash hangs over Tokyo, haunting the survivors. Japanese authorities tried to count the dead, but it's chaos. Many victims were incinerated completely, leaving no identifiable remains. Entire families vanish without a trace. Residential records were destroyed. The final official tally lists 100,000 confirmed dead, but modern historians estimate somewhere between 80,000 and 130,000 killed in that single night, making it the deadliest air attack in history, exceeding Hiroshima, about 70,000 killed on August 6th, and Nagasaki, about 40,000 on August 9th. 1 million people are left homeless, wandering the ruins, searching for family members or possessions in the ash where their homes once stood. 17-year-old Tsuyoshi Morimoto recalled, "I walked to where my house had been, but I couldn't find it because everything looked the same. Just gray ash as far as I could see. I found the canal where I used to fish, but it was full of floating bodies. Some of them were small children." For the United States, the mission is a crushing tactical success beyond expectations. 279 B-29s bombed the primary target, 19 hit alternate or opportunity targets, 27 abort due to mechanical issues, and only 14 are lost. Around a 5% loss rate, far lower than catastrophic predictions. On Guam, LeMay receives reconnaissance photos showing total destruction of the target area. He knows immediately he has discovered how to win this war. He orders preparations for another identical mission. Act 5. The total campaign LeMay doesn't let up. He knows he has a limited window before Japan adapts its defenses, or before Washington stops him over moral concerns, so he orders continuous raids against all major Japanese cities. March 12. 313 B-29s ignite Nagoya, killing 2,000 and destroying 2 square miles. March 13. 274 B-29s ignite Osaka, killing 4,000 and destroying 8 square miles. March 16th, 307 B-29s hit Kobe, killing 8,000 and destroying 3 square miles. March 18th, 290 B-29s strike Nagoya again, destroying another 3 square miles. In just 10 days, LeMay has burned Japan's 5 largest industrial cities, destroying 31 square miles of urban area, killing roughly 120,000 people, and leaving 1.5 million homeless. The campaign continues through April, May, and June, with regular incendiary attacks on mid-sized cities, now that the largest ones are already wrecked. On May 25th, LeMay orders a second massive strike on Tokyo, because the city is so large that 41 square kilometers barely crippled it. This time, 502 B-29s burn another 22 square miles, including areas near the Imperial Palace, killing 3,500 more. Between March and August 1945, B-29s fly about 34,000 bombing sorties, dropping roughly 165,000 tons of incendiaries on Japanese cities. The results are staggering. 67 cities bombed, 178 square miles of urban area destroyed, 2.5 million buildings burned, an estimated 330,000 to 500,000 civilians killed, 8.5 million left homeless. By August 1945, Japan's urban industrial capacity is effectively shattered. But the campaign ignites intense ethical debate, even within US command, because this is clearly deliberate terror bombing against civilians, meant to destroy morale and force surrender through mass suffering. General Loris Norstad later says, "War is mass murder. We bombed to destroy Japan's ability to continue the war. If that means burning cities, then we will burn cities." Secretary of War Henry Stimson is deeply disturbed and writes in his diary, "I don't want the United States to get the reputation of being more barbarous than Genghis Khan." But he doesn't stop the raids, because everyone understands the alternative. An invasion of the Japanese home islands, Operation Downfall, estimated to kill between 500,000 and 1 million American and Japanese soldiers. Hiroshima and Nagasaki in August get more historical attention because the atomic bomb is new and terrifying. But the atomic attacks killed fewer people than the 5-month firebombing campaign LeMay executed. LeMay later says, "I suppose if we'd lost the war, I'd have been tried as a war criminal. Fortunately, we're on the winning side." Japan finally surrenders on August 15, 1945, after the atomic bombings and the Soviet entry into the war, but the incendiary campaign had already destroyed much of its industrial base and killed hundreds of thousands before those final weapons were used. Epilogue. Operation Meetinghouse remains the deadliest air raid in human history, killing more people in one night than any other bombing attack, including nuclear strikes. Tokyo lost roughly a quarter of its buildings in a single night. 1 million people were left homeless in just 6 hours. Curtis LeMay never expressed remorse. He said, "I did what was necessary to win the war and save American lives. If that makes me a criminal, then I'm a criminal. But I don't regret my decisions, because I shortened the war." He retired as a 4-star general and served as Air Force Chief of Staff. Japanese survivors of the bombing were often grouped under the term hibakusha, bomb-affected people, though technically the word is reserved for atomic victims. Many suffered permanent psychological trauma, and some later developed cancers linked to toxic chemicals in the smoke they inhaled. Reconstruction began immediately after the surrender, and Tokyo was reborn as a modern metropolis, eventually becoming one of the largest and most prosperous cities on Earth. Today, few physical traces of the firebombing remain, but small memorials mark places where the bombs fell. The ethical debate over strategic bombing continues among military historians because it raises fundamental questions about morality in war. Is it acceptable to kill civilians to achieve military goals? How many enemy civilians are worth the lives of how many of your own soldiers? Are there moral limits in total war, where national survival is at stake? There are no easy answers. In the context of 1945, the United States was fighting a total war against an enemy that struck Pearl Harbor first, committed massive atrocities across Asia, and was preparing fanatical resistance that could cost millions of lives in an invasion. But it is also true that burning 100,000 civilians alive in 6 hours is a moral horror, regardless of strategic justification. The technology that made Meetinghouse possible, gelled napalm, dispersible incendiaries, and long-range bombers, proved that entire cities could be destroyed in hours without nuclear weapons. Conventional fire, applied scientifically, can be as deadly as atomic radiation. It simply requires more bombs. That was the story of the deadliest night of World War II, the firestorm that killed more than an atomic bomb. The night Curtis LeMay demonstrated that strategically controlled fire could be as devastating a weapon as any nuclear invention. Leave me a comment. Had you heard of this operation before? Do you think the firebombing raids were justified as a way to end the war faster? What's your take on LeMay's decisions? Would you like me to make videos about other World War II bombing campaigns?